Lily Johnson's fingers trembled as she typed the message, her heart hammering against her ribs. The man across from her, Park Kwang-ho, her supposedly perfect blind date, had just grabbed her wrist when she tried to excuse herself to the bathroom. His 3 business associates blocked her exit, their cold smiles making her skin crawl. She hit send on the text to her mom. This date feels wrong. These men are scaring me. Location, Moonlight Pavilion, Gangnam. My mom always told me, if something feels wrong, it probably is. I texted her those exact words on what should have been a simple blind date in Seoul. I had no idea that message would lead me to fall in love with one of the most dangerous men in South Korea, or that he'd prove the scariest monsters don't always look like gangsters. 3 years later, I'm standing at our wedding, watching Kong Sung-jae, former Mafia boss turned legitimate businessman, nervously adjust his tie as my mom walks toward us. He's faced down rival syndicates, corrupt politicians, and underground empires without flinching. But my 5 feet 4 inches mother has him terrified. She stops in front of him, looks him dead in the eye, and says, "You saved my daughter when she texted me for help. Now I'm trusting you to keep saving her every day." This is the story of how one wrong date, one text message, and one dangerous man taught me that sometimes the person who saves you is the one who needs saving most. But let me take you back to where it all started. 8 months after I moved to Seoul, sitting across from a man whose smile made my skin crawl. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more Korean romance stories. Your support means everything. Now, let's get back to Lily's story. 8 months. That's how long Lily had been living in Seoul when her colleague Ji-won cornered her in the Myeongdong Gallery break room with stars in her eyes and a business card in her hand. "Lily Yuni, I found the perfect man for you. My cousin's friend, successful businessman, studied abroad, speaks perfect English, and so handsome." Lily had laughed, shaking her head as she organized authentication documents for the upcoming contemporary art exhibition. "Ji-won, I moved here to focus on my career, not date. It's been 8 months since your breakup with Marcus." Ji-won protested, her voice taking on that pleading tone Lily had learned meant she wouldn't give up easily. "One dinner. Just one. If you hate it, I'll never set you up again. Promise." That promise, Lily would later realize, was worth absolutely nothing. But in that moment, exhausted from a 12-hour day of verifying provenance documents and preparing for the exhibition opening, Lily had relented. "Fine. One dinner. But somewhere public, and I'm keeping my location sharing on." Ji-won had clapped her hands together, already pulling out her phone. "You'll love him. Park Kwang-ho is exactly your type. Sophisticated, cultured, appreciates art." Now, sitting across from Park Kwang-ho in the upscale Hanok-style restaurant called Moonlight Pavilion, Lily wondered what version of her type Ji-won had been imagining. The man was handsome, certainly, sharp jawline, expensive suit, perfectly styled hair. But something about the way his eyes tracked her movements, calculating and cold, made her want to grab her purse and run. "So, Lily," Kwang-ho said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes as he poured her wine without asking if she wanted any. "Ji-won tells me you're an art curator. That must be interesting work for a woman." The first red flag. Lily's smile tightened. "It's interesting work for anyone passionate about art and cultural preservation." Of course. He waved his hand dismissively. "But surely you're not planning to do this forever? A woman your age must be thinking about settling down, starting a family." "I'm 26, Lily said flatly, her Atlanta accent sharpening with irritation. "And I just landed my dream job at one of Seoul's most prestigious galleries. I'm thinking about the Rothko authentication I have to complete next week, not babies." Kwang-ho's eyes flashed with something that might have been anger before his smile returned, wider and colder. "Feisty. I like that." He reached across the table and placed his hand over hers. "But in Korea, women understand the importance of traditional values. You'll learn." Lily pulled her hand back, her internal alarm system screaming. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding at all." Kwang-ho signaled to the waiter, who brought over their meals. Lily stared at the plate of galbi in front of her, her stomach sinking. "I'm vegetarian," she said quietly. "I mentioned that when Ji-won was making the reservation. Nonsense. You need to eat properly. Can't have you wasting away. Kwang Ho cut into his own meat, completely unbothered. Besides, when we're married, you'll eat what I provide. Mary, Lily's voice rose despite her best efforts to stay calm. The few other diners in the restaurant glanced over. We literally just met 20 minutes ago. Lily. Kwang Ho's smile vanished entirely, replaced by something sharp and predatory. Let's not play games. Ji-won told me all about you. Foreign woman, alone in Seoul, no family nearby, working at a gallery with international connections. You're exactly what I've been looking for. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Lily's hand moved slowly toward her purse, fingers searching for her phone. What are you talking about? Before Kwang Ho could answer, 3 men in expensive suits approached their table. They didn't ask permission to sit. They simply pulled up chairs, boxing Lily in. All 3 had the same cold, calculating expression as Kwang Ho. Gentlemen, Kwang Ho said smoothly, as if he'd been expecting them all along. This is Lily Johnson, the art curator I told you about. Lily, these are my business associates. We have a proposition for you. Lily's mouth went dry. She glanced around the restaurant, suddenly noticing how empty it was for a Friday night. The few other diners seemed completely uninterested in what was happening at her table. The staff had disappeared into the back. I need to use the restroom, Lily said, standing abruptly. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Kwang Ho's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with bruising force. Sit down. We're not finished talking business. Let go of me. Lily tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. The 3 men at the table leaned back in their chairs, watching with amusement. Your gallery handles a lot of international transactions, doesn't it? One of the men asked casually, lighting a cigarette despite the no-smoking signs. Art pieces moving between Korea, America, Europe? Lily's blood ran cold. She understood exactly what they were implying. Money laundering. They wanted to use the gallery's legitimate international art transactions as a front for moving illicit money. I don't know what you think. We think, Kwang Ho interrupted, his grip on her wrist never loosening, that you're going to be very useful to us. A foreign woman with access to international buyers' authentication authority, and his eyes raked over her in a way that made her skin crawl. Other marketable qualities. You should be honored. We've been watching you for weeks, planning this very carefully. Lily's free hand fumbled in her purse under the table, finally grasping her phone. Her fingers moved across the screen by muscle memory, finding her mom's contact, typing with one hand, while Kwang Ho droned on about shipping routes and buyer networks. This date feels wrong, she typed, her hand shaking. These men are scaring me. Location, Moonlight Pavilion, Gangnam. She added her exact GPS coordinates and hit send, just as Kwang Ho noticed her movement. What are you doing? He yanked her hand above the table, making her drop the phone. It clattered onto the table, face up. Her mom's response was already appearing. Baby, I'm calling the embassy right now. Stay where people can see you. I love you. Kwang Ho read the message and laughed, a sound without warmth. The embassy? How cute. You really don't understand who you're dealing with, do you? In the VIP section of Moonlight Pavilion, separated from the main dining area by an ornate wooden screen, Kang Sung-jae sat alone at a table that could have seated 8. He preferred solitude during meals. It gave him time to think, to plan, to observe. At 34, he'd built the Chongryong Syndicate from nothing, transforming it into one of Seoul's most powerful underground organizations. On paper, he was a legitimate real estate developer. In reality, he controlled half of Gangnam's protection networks and had connections that reached into every level of Seoul's power structure. But tonight, his carefully cultivated calm was fracturing. Boss, Do Hyun, his right-hand man, murmured quietly, leaning close. The woman in the main dining room. The foreign one. She's with Park Kwang Ho. Sung-jae's eyes flickered toward the wooden screen. Through the gaps, he could see a black woman with natural curls pulled back in an elegant bun, wearing a deep blue dress that somehow looked both professional and beautiful. Even from this distance, he could read her body language, rigid posture, hands clenched, eyes darting toward exits. Kwang Ho. Sung-jae's voice was flat, emotionless. He knew the name. Small-time loan shark trying to build a trafficking network. Too stupid to understand, he was operating in Chongryong territory without permission. What's his business with her? Not sure yet, but Do-hyun paused as 3 more men joined Kwang-ho's table. That's his entire crew. And she looks terrified. Sung-jae watched as the woman tried to stand, and Kwang-ho grabbed her wrist. Something cold and familiar twisted in his chest. A feeling he'd learned to bury 8 years ago, the night his sister Minji had called him crying, begging him to come get her from a party where a man wouldn't leave her alone. He'd been in a meeting with Chinese distributors, building his empire, making the connections that would eventually make him untouchable. He'd arrived 30 minutes too late. Find out what he wants with her, Sung-jae ordered, his voice deadly quiet. Do-hyun made a quick call, spoke in rapid Korean to one of their informants who worked in the restaurant. His expression darkened as he listened. They want to use her for her gallery connections. Money laundering through international art sales. And, he hesitated, Kwang-ho's been talking about expanding into human trafficking. Foreign women fetch high prices overseas. Sung-jae's hand tightened around his wine glass until his knuckles went white. Through the screen, he saw the woman fumbling with something under the table. Her phone. Smart. She was texting someone, asking for help. But Kwang-ho saw it too, yanking her hand above the table. Sung-jae stood. Stay here. Boss, if you intervene. I said stay here. Sung-jae's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Do-hyun nodded and sat back down, though his hand moved to the gun concealed under his jacket. Sung-jae walked through the restaurant with measured steps, his presence commanding immediate attention. Conversations died. Staff members bowed deeply. He could feel every eye in the room on him as he approached Kwang-ho's table. The woman, Lily, he'd heard Kwang-ho call her, was trying to pull her wrist free. Kwang-ho was laughing at something on her phone screen. His associates were leaning back in their chairs, blocking her escape routes, looking far too comfortable for men who should have known better than to operate in this district without permission. Gentlemen, Sung-jae said quietly, his voice cutting through Kwang-ho's laughter like a knife. I believe the lady asked you to let her go. The effect was instantaneous. Kwang-ho's head snapped up, his face draining of color as he recognized Sung-jae. His 3 associates scrambled to their feet, bowing so deeply their foreheads nearly touched the table. K-Kong Sung-jae Nim. Kwang-ho stammered, immediately releasing Lily's wrist. This is just a business dinner. We didn't mean to disturb. You're operating in Chongryong territory, Sung-jae interrupted, his eyes never leaving Kwang-ho's face. Without permission. Without tribute. That's your first mistake. He let the silence stretch, watching Kwang-ho's Adam's apple bob as he swallowed nervously. Your second mistake was touching her. Lily was staring at him with wide eyes, dark brown. He noticed, flecked with gold in the restaurant's soft lighting. Scared, yes, but also analyzing, trying to understand what was happening. Smart woman. We had no idea she was under your protection, Sung-jae Nim, one of the associates said quickly. We apologize. She wasn't. Sung-jae glanced at Lily. Until now? Miss, come with me. You're not safe here. Lily didn't move immediately. She looked between Sung-jae and Kwang-ho, clearly trying to decide which was the lesser threat. Sung-jae couldn't blame her. He was a stranger who'd just walked into her nightmare and claimed ownership of her safety. But he also knew what men like Kwang-ho did to women they targeted, and he'd be damned if he let it happen again. Please, he added, softening his voice slightly. I promise I mean you no harm. But they do. Something in his tone must have convinced her, because Lily slowly stood, her movements careful as if she expected Kwang-ho to grab her again. Do-hyun appeared from nowhere, smoothly picking up her purse from where it had fallen and handing it to her with a respectful bow. Your belongings, miss. Kwang-ho's face had gone from pale to red, anger overriding his fear. You can't just take her, Sung-jae. This is my deal, my operation. Your operation? Sung-jae turned back to face him fully, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You mean the trafficking network you're trying to build? The one using loan sharking as a front? The one that would bring police attention to this entire district? He took a step closer. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you think you could operate under my protection without consequences? We were going to approach you for partnership. You were going to approach me after you'd already targeted this woman, already made your plans, already set your trap. Sung-jae's voice was soft, almost gentle, which made it infinitely more terrifying. That's not how partnerships work, Kwang Ho. That's how betrayals begin. Lily stood frozen between the tables, watching this exchange with a mixture of fear and fascination. Sung-jae gestured toward the exit. Wait by the car. The black Mercedes. Do-hyun will escort you. She hesitated only a moment before nodding, letting Do-hyun guide her toward the door. Sung-jae waited until he heard the restaurant entrance close before turning his full attention back to Kwang Ho. You have 24 hours to shut down your operation and leave Seoul, he said conversationally. Take your crew, close your loan offices, disappear. If I hear of you operating anywhere in Korea again, if I hear of you targeting women again, I will find you. And I will make sure you understand exactly what my sister felt in her last moments. Kwang Ho's face went white again. Everyone in Seoul's underworld knew the story of Kang Min-ji, knew that her death had transformed Sung-jae from an ambitious gang member into the ruthless leader of Chongryong. Sung-jae-nim, please, we can work this out. 24 hours, Sung-jae repeated. Then he leaned in close enough that only Kwang Ho could hear his next words. And if you even think about retaliating against that woman, if you send so much as a text message in her direction, I will make you disappear so thoroughly that your own mother won't be able to find your grave. He straightened, adjusting his suit jacket as if they'd been discussing the weather. Enjoy your meal, gentlemen. The bill is on me. Consider it a farewell dinner. Outside, Lily stood next to the Mercedes, her arms wrapped around herself despite the warm Seoul night. Do-hyun stood a respectful distance away, giving her space while keeping watch. Her phone was pressed to her ear. Mom, I don't know how to explain this, she was saying, her voice shaking. There was this date, and these men, and then someone else showed up. I don't know who he is. I don't know if I'm safer or in more danger. Her voice broke. I just want to go home. Sung-jae heard his mother's voice through the phone, distant but urgent, saying something about the embassy and police and staying on the line. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle Lily. Tell her you're safe, he said quietly. Tell her I'm taking you somewhere secure, and you'll call her as soon as you're there. Give her this number. He recited his personal cell phone number, the one only Do-hyun and his most trusted associates had. And tell her if she doesn't hear from you within the hour, she should call it and ask for Kang Sung-jae. Lily stared at him, phone still pressed to her ear. Why would you give my mom your number? Because you don't trust me yet, Sung-jae said simply. And you shouldn't. But you also can't go back to your apartment tonight. Kwang Ho knows where you live. He's been watching you for weeks. The color drained from Lily's face. She repeated Sung-jae's words and his number to her mother, listening to whatever response came back. Finally, she nodded. Okay, Mom. I'll call you in an hour. I love you too. She ended the call and looked at Sung-jae with those gold-flecked eyes, scared but defiant. Who are you? Someone who's going to make sure you live to regret this blind date, Sung-jae said. Get in the car. We have a lot to discuss. The penthouse overlooked the Han River, all floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist luxury. Lily sat on the edge of a cream-colored leather sofa, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, watching Sung-jae pour tea with the precise movements of someone who'd been trained in traditional ceremony. The disconnect between the violence she'd witnessed him threaten and the careful grace with which he now served tea was disorienting. You're a Mafia boss, she said flatly. It wasn't a question. Yes. Sung-jae handed her a cup, the porcelain warm against her cold fingers. Leader of the Chongryong Syndicate. On paper, I'm a real estate developer. In reality, I control protection networks, arbitrate disputes, and maintain order in territories across Seoul. And you just decided to rescue me? Out of the goodness of your heart. Lily's Atlanta accent sharpened with skepticism. I decided to stop a trafficking operation from starting in my territory, Sung-jae corrected, settling into the chair across from her. The fact that you were the target simply made it more urgent. Why? The question hung in the air. Sung-jae was silent for a long moment, his eyes distant. I had a sister, Min-ji. She was 16 when a man targeted her at a party. She called me for help. His voice was carefully neutral, emotionless. I was building an empire, making connections, closing deals. I told her I'd be there in 30 minutes. I arrived to find her body. Lily's breath caught. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be smart. Sung-jae's eyes refocused on her, sharp and assessing. Kwang Ho doesn't give up easily. You humiliated him tonight. Made him look weak in front of his crew. He'll want revenge. So what am I supposed to do? Hide forever? No. You're going to stay here, under my protection, until I've neutralized the threat. He said it as if it were the most obvious solution in the world. Lily laughed, a short, sharp sound without humor. You expect me to just move in with a mafia boss I met 2 hours ago? I have a life. A job. An apartment. Had an apartment. Do-hyun interjected from where he stood by the door. He'd been so still Lily had almost forgotten he was there. Kwang-ho's men were spotted outside your building 15 minutes ago. They left flowers at your door. Flowers? Lily's stomach dropped. Do-hyun pulled out his phone, showing her a photo. A beautiful bouquet of roses. All of them dead and rotting, tied with a white ribbon. The message was clear. Your gallery received a similar arrangement, Sung-jae added, along with a note expressing disappointment that you left dinner early. Lily's hands started shaking. The tea sloshed in her cup, and Sung-jae gently took it from her before she could spill it. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. I went on one bad date, and now I'm what? Caught in some kind of gang war. Not a war. A cleanup. Sung-jae's voice was matter-of-fact. Kwang-ho will be gone within 48 hours. But until then, you need protection. I'm offering it. And what do you get out of this? Lily demanded. Nobody does something for nothing. I get to sleep at night knowing I didn't let another woman die because I was too late. The raw honesty in his voice startled her. That's all. No strings, no obligations beyond basic security protocols. Lily wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could take care of herself, wanted to call the police or the embassy or anyone who represented legitimate authority. But she'd seen the cold calculation in Kwang-ho's eyes, understood that men like him didn't respect laws or borders. And despite everything, despite the danger radiating from Sung-jae like heat from asphalt, she believed he meant what he said about protecting her. What kind of security protocols? She asked warily. You don't leave this building without escorts. You don't contact anyone from your previous life except your mother until this is resolved. You let my people sweep your electronics for tracking software. And you trust that I'm very good at what I do. It was the last part that made her decision. Not, trust me, but trust that I'm good at this. Confidence without arrogance. Competence instead of charm. 48 hours, Lily said. Then we reevaluate. Fair enough. Sung-jae gestured toward the hallway. Mrs. Choi prepared the guest room. You'll find clothes in the closet. I had Do-hyun purchase what he thought you might need based on your apartment style. You went through my apartment? Lily's voice rose. We swept it for surveillance devices, Do-hyun said unapologetically. Kwang-ho had cameras in your building's hallway and a tracker on your car. Both have been removed. Lily closed her eyes, fighting down panic. This is my life now? Cameras and trackers and bodyguards. For 48 hours, Sung-jae reminded her gently. Then you can go back to authentication documents and Rothko paintings. She opened her eyes to find him watching her with an expression that might have been respect. How did you know about the Rothko? You mentioned it to Kwang-ho. I was listening. He stood, clearly considering the conversation over. Sleep. Tomorrow we'll discuss longer-term logistics, if necessary. Do-hyun will be outside your door. Mrs. Choi will bring breakfast at 7 unless you prefer to sleep late. I'm usually up at 5:30, Lily said automatically. Something flickered in Sung-jae's eyes. Surprise? Approval? But he only nodded. Then I'll see you at dawn. I run along the river. You're welcome to join if you can keep up. It was a challenge, subtle but unmistakable. Despite everything. The fear, the anger, the surreal nightmare her life had become, Lily felt her chin lift. I ran track at Spellman. I'll keep up just fine. The corner of Sung-jae's mouth twitched, almost a smile. We'll see. The guest room was larger than Lily's entire apartment, decorated in soft grays and creams with a bed that looked like it cost more than her car. The closet, as promised, held clothes, and not just clothes, but pieces that actually matched her style. Comfortable jeans, flowing blouses, a leather jacket nearly identical to one she owned. It should have been creepy, this evidence of how thoroughly they'd researched her. Instead, it felt oddly considerate. She called her mom at exactly 1 hour, as promised. Baby, are you okay? Really okay? Her mom's voice was tight with worry. I think so, Mom. Lily sat on the edge of the enormous bed, suddenly exhausted. This man, Sung-jae, he's... I looked him up, her mom interrupted. Kong Sung-jae. There's not much online, But what's there suggests he's very dangerous and very powerful. Are you sure you're safe with him? Safer than I was at that restaurant. Lily thought about Sung-jae's face when he'd mentioned his sister, the raw grief beneath the controlled exterior. I think he's dangerous to bad people. Not to me. Your gut feeling? Yeah. Her mom was quiet for a long moment. Your gut saved you tonight, Lily. It's never steered you wrong. But I'm booking a flight to Seoul tomorrow. Mom, no. Yes. I'm not leaving my baby girl alone with gangsters, no matter how honorable they seem. I'll stay in a hotel, won't interfere, but I'm coming. End of discussion. Lily knew that tone. Her mom had used it when Lily wanted to quit piano lessons at age 8, when she wanted to skip college for art school, when she dated Marcus despite every red flag waving in her face. It was the tone that meant further argument was futile. Okay, she conceded. Text me your flight details. I love you, baby girl. Stay safe. Stay smart. I love you too, Mom. After hanging up, Lily discovered the en-suite bathroom had a shower with jets that seemed designed by someone who understood exactly how to unknot tension from shoulders and spine. She stood under the hot water until it ran cool, washing away the feel of Kwang Ho's grip on her wrist, trying to process the impossible turn her life had taken. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a robe that was softer than anything she'd ever owned, she found a tray outside her door. Green tea, still steaming. A bowl of fresh fruit. A note in precise handwriting. Sleep well. Tomorrow requires strength. Lily brought the tray inside, settled cross-legged on the bed, and pulled out her phone. She had 17 missed calls from G1, 6 from her gallery director, and a text from an unknown number. You should have stayed for dessert. This isn't over. K. Her hands shook as she screenshot the message and sent it to Sung-jae's number. His response came within seconds. He's stupider than I thought. This helps. Sleep, Lily. You're safe here. And somehow, impossibly, she believed him. At 5:30 the next morning, Lily found Sung-jae in the penthouse's small gym, already dressed in running gear. He looked up from his stretches, eyebrows rising slightly. You actually showed up. I said I would. Lily had found running clothes in the closet, of course, in exactly her size. Spellman, remember? Track scholarship. I remember. He finished his stretch and headed for the door. Keep up, and I'll buy you coffee after. They ran along the Han River as the sun rose over Seoul, turning the water gold and pink. Sung-jae set a punishing pace, testing her, but Lily matched him stride for stride. Neither spoke, didn't need to. There was something almost meditative about the rhythm of feet on pavement, breath in lungs, the city waking up around them. It wasn't until they stopped at a small cafe, both breathing hard, that Sung-jae finally smiled. Really smiled, not the cold mask he'd worn the night before. You're stubborn, he observed. You're bossy, Lily countered. Fair. The coffee shop was tiny, tucked between two larger buildings like an afterthought, but Sung-jae ordered in rapid Korean and the elderly owner bowed deeply before rushing to prepare their drinks. Lily watched this interaction with growing curiosity. Everyone recognized him. Everyone feared him. But this old woman also looked at him with something like affection. You come here often, Lily observed. Mrs. Park makes the best coffee in Seoul. She also doesn't ask questions. Sung-jae accepted 2 cups, handing one to Lily. Her son got involved with loan sharks 15 years ago. Chongryong helped resolve the situation. Let me guess. You made the loan sharks disappear? I made them understand that preying on struggling families wasn't acceptable in our territory. He sipped his coffee. Mrs. Park's son now runs a successful accounting firm. She shows her gratitude by making exceptional coffee and pretending not to notice when I have meetings here that require privacy. Lily studied him over the rim of her cup. In the morning light, without the dramatic tension of last night's confrontation, Sung-jae looked younger, less dangerous. Still handsome in that sharp-edged way, but there were lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled more than his reputation implied. You're not what I expected a mafia boss to look like, she admitted. What did you expect? Scars, gold chains, a dramatic eye patch, maybe a little more obvious villainy. She was surprised to find herself almost smiling. You buy coffee from grateful old ladies and run at dawn. It's very normal. Disappointing. Confusing. Sung-jae set down his cup. I'm not a good man, Lily. Don't mistake routine for virtue. I've hurt people, killed people, built an empire on violence and fear. The fact that I also enjoy good coffee and morning runs doesn't change that. Why are you telling me this? Because you're smart enough to romanticize what happened last night. The dangerous man who saved you. The protective gesture, the luxury penthouse. His eyes were serious. This isn't a fairy tale. I'm not a misunderstood hero. I'm someone who chose a dark path and can't unchoose it. Can't. Or won't. The question seemed to surprise him. He was quiet for a long moment, watching steam rise from his coffee. I don't know anymore. Lily's phone buzzed. Do-hyun, texting to inform her that her gallery director had called 3 times and was getting concerned. She sighed. I need to contact work. They'll think I disappeared. Tell them you had a family emergency. You'll be back in a few days. Sung-jae pulled out his own phone. Do-hyun will handle the details. Make it believable. I don't like lying. Would you prefer telling your director you're hiding from human traffickers in a mafia boss's penthouse? I'm sure that would go over well. He had a point. Lily sent a carefully worded text to her director about her mother having health issues, needing to handle some urgent matters, would keep him updated. The lies came easier than she wanted to admit. You're adapting quickly, Sung-jae observed. Most people in your situation would still be in shock. I grew up in Atlanta. Not the nice parts. Lily met his eyes. My cousin Terrell got killed in a gang shooting when I was 13. My neighbor's kid disappeared into trafficking when I was 16. I know how the world works outside the gallery walls. I just tried to escape it. And now it found you anyway. Yeah. She laughed bitterly. Funny how that works. They walked back to the penthouse in comfortable silence. Do-hyun met them at the entrance with news. Kwang-ho had sent flowers to the gallery again, along with a note asking if Lily was feeling better. The undertone of threat was clear. He's escalating, Sung-jae said. Reading the note Do-hyun handed him. Faster than expected. What does that mean? Lily asked. It means he's either incredibly stupid or incredibly desperate. Sung-jae turned to Do-hyun. Double the security at the gallery. I want eyes on every entrance, every employee. If Kwang-ho tries anything there, I want to know before it happens. The next few days settled into an unexpected routine. Lily worked from the penthouse, handling authentication requests remotely, video calling with her team. Sung-jae disappeared for hours at a time on business, returning for dinners that Mrs. Choi prepared with obvious love and occasional disapproval of his eating habits. You need vegetables, the elderly housekeeper scolded, swatting his hand when he reached for a third helping of galbi. Miss Lily, tell him. He listens to no one. Lily, surprised to be included in this domestic scene, found herself smiling. Mrs. Choi is right. You need balance. Sung-jae looked between them, something like amusement in his eyes. I'm being ganged up on in my own home. Yes, Mrs. Choi said firmly, loading his plate with seasoned vegetables. Miss Lily has good sense. You should listen to her more. After Mrs. Choi left for the evening, Lily asked, How long has she worked for you? 15 years. She was my sister's nanny, then became my housekeeper after. He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. She's the closest thing to family I have left. No other family? Parents. Dead. Car accident when I was 19. Min-ji was 11. I became her guardian. His voice was carefully neutral again, that emotional distance he seemed to maintain like armor. I tried to give her a normal life while building the syndicate. Clearly, I failed. You were 19 and an orphan trying to raise an 11-year-old. That's not failure. That's survival. Sung-jae looked at her, really looked, as if seeing something he hadn't expected. You're generous with your understanding. I'm realistic with my judgments. Lily stood, clearing plates. You're not a cartoon villain, Sung-jae. You're a person who made choices in impossible circumstances. Good and bad don't exist in neat categories. Careful, Lily. That kind of thinking is how people end up making excuses for monsters. Is that what you are? A monster? Some days. He took the plates from her hands, their fingers brushing briefly. Other days I'm just tired. The honesty in his voice made something in Lily's chest tighten. She found herself wanting to ask more, to understand the man behind the reputation, but Do-hyun appeared with urgent news. Kwang-ho made a move. He tried to approach Ji-won outside the gallery. Lily's blood ran cold. Is she okay? Our people intercepted. She's shaken but unharmed. Do-hyun looked at Sung-jae. He's using her to draw out Lily. Then we end this. Tonight. Sung-jae's voice went flat, dangerous. Get the team ready. I want every property he owns, every account he accesses, every person he's contacted in the last month. We're going to make Park Kwang-ho understand what happens when you threaten what's mine. Lily's heart skipped at that possessive phrase, even as her rational mind recognized it for what it was, territorial instinct, not personal attachment. Still, the way Sung Jae had said it, with absolute certainty and cold fury, made her feel something she hadn't felt since arriving in Seoul, truly protected. I want to help, she said. Absolutely not. He's using my friend as bait. My gallery as leverage. This is my mess. This is my city. Sung Jae's eyes were chips of ice. My territory. My responsibility. You stay here, safe, while I handle it. No. Lily stepped closer, meeting his glare with her own. I'm not some damsel you stashed away for safekeeping. I have knowledge you need. I know G1's schedule, the gallery's security protocols, how Kwang-ho might try to use those connections. You want to end this? Let me help end it. If something happened to you, then that would be my choice. Lily's voice was steady despite her racing heart. I'm not asking permission, Sung Jae. I'm telling you I'm involved whether you like it or not. The silence stretched between them, taut as wire. Do-hyun watched from the doorway, carefully neutral. Finally, Sung Jae's expression shifted from anger to something that might have been respect. You're stubborn. You mentioned that already. It's going to get you killed. Or it's going to save G1's life. Lily crossed her arms. Your choice. Work with me or work around me. But I'm not sitting in this penthouse playing helpless while my friend is in danger. Sung Jae looked at Do-hyun. What do you think? I think Miss Johnson makes good points. And I think Kwang-ho won't expect her to be involved in our response. Do-hyun's expression was thoughtful. She could be an asset. She could also be a liability. I could also be standing right here, Lily interjected. Stop talking about me like I'm not in the room. Sung Jae's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Fine. But you follow my orders exactly. No improvisation, no heroics, no risks. Clear. Crystal. Then let's plan. He gestured to the dining table, where Do-hyun was already spreading out papers, photographs, maps. Kwang-ho's getting desperate, which makes him dangerous. We need to be smarter, faster, and absolutely ruthless. Lily, tell me everything you know about your gallery's security systems. They worked through the night, planning every detail. Lily discovered Sung Jae was brilliant at strategy, seeing angles and possibilities she'd never have considered. He listened to her input seriously, incorporating her knowledge of the gallery and G1's habits into his plans. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, Mrs. Choi appeared with coffee and sweet rice cakes, skiing at them for staying up so late, but clearly proud of their dedication. Like students studying for exams, she muttered. Except these exams have guns. Mrs. Choi. Sung Jae looked scandalized. What? I'm old, not stupid. I know what you do. She patted Lily's shoulder. You keep him honest, Miss Lily. He needs someone who isn't afraid of him. After she left, Lily said, I'm terrified of you. Good. You should be. But I'm more terrified of what happens to Ji-won if we don't stop Kwang-ho. Sung Jae nodded slowly. Then we won't fail. The gallery district was quiet at 4 in the morning, the upscale shops dark and shuttered. Lily sat in the back of Sung Jae's Mercedes, wearing a wire so thin she could barely feel it against her skin. Do-hyun was driving, his eyes constantly scanning the streets. Sung Jae sat beside her, close enough that she could feel the tension radiating from him. Last chance to back out, he said quietly. Not backing out. You should. This is dangerous, Lily. Kwang-ho isn't stable. If something goes wrong, it won't. She tried to sound more confident than she felt. The plan was simple in theory. Lily would text Ji-won, suggest they meet early at the gallery to discuss the security breach, the flowers, the threats. If Kwang-ho was monitoring Ji-won's phone, which Sung Jae's tech people confirmed he was, he'd see it as the perfect opportunity to grab Lily. Sung Jae's team would be positioned around the gallery, ready to intervene the moment Kwang-ho showed himself. Simple in theory, terrifying in practice. Lily's phone buzzed. Ji-won's response. Are you okay? I've been so worried. Yes, let's meet. 5 a.m. She took the bait, Do-hyun observed. Or Kwang-ho took it for her. Sung Jae touched his earpiece, speaking rapidly in Korean to his team. Lily caught enough to understand. Positions confirmed, exits covered, snipers in place. Snipers. This was her life now. They dropped her 2 blocks from the gallery, exactly as planned. Lily walked alone through the pre-dawn darkness, every nerve screaming at her to run, to call this off, to let Sung Jae handle it his way. But Ji-won's frightened face kept appearing in her mind. Her friend, who'd only wanted to help her move on from Marcus, who'd thought she was doing something kind by setting up that blind date. The gallery's entrance was dark. Lily used her key card, the beep absurdly loud in the silence. Inside, track lighting illuminated the current exhibition, contemporary Korean artists exploring themes of identity and displacement. Ironic, given her current situation. Ji-won, she called out, her voice echoing. In the back office, Ji-won's voice sounded strange. Strained. Lily's hand moved to the pendant around her neck. Not a pendant at all, but a panic button Sung Jae had insisted she wear. One press and his team would storm in. But she needed Kwang Ho to reveal himself first, needed proof of his threats for the authorities Sung Jae had grudgingly agreed to involve. The back office door was ajar. Lily pushed it open and found Ji-won sitting at the desk, tears streaming down her face. Behind her stood Kwang Ho, one hand tangled in Ji-won's hair, the other holding a knife. "Hello, Lily," he said pleasantly. "Thank you for coming. We have so much to discuss." Lily's thumb found the panic button, but didn't press. "Not yet. Let her go, Kwang Ho. This is between us." "Is it?" He yanked Ji-won's hair, making her cry out. "I thought it was about respect. About knowing your place. About understanding that you don't embarrass Park Kwang Ho and walk away. I'm here now." Lily kept her voice steady, watching his eyes. Wild. Desperate. Sung Jae had been right. He was unraveling. "Let Ji-won go and we'll talk." "Talk?" Kwang Ho laughed. "We're past talking. You cost me everything. Kong Sung Jae came to my businesses, shut down my operations, froze my accounts. My associates abandoned me. All because you couldn't just cooperate. You wanted to traffic me. I wanted to offer you an opportunity." Spittle flew from his mouth. But no, the American princess was too good for honest work. Had to run to the biggest gangster in Seoul for protection. Honest work. Lily's anger overrode her fear. "You were going to sell women. Force them into slavery. That's not work, that's evil." The knife pressed harder against Ji-won's throat. "One more word and I cut her. Then I disappear and Sung Jae can spend the rest of his life knowing he failed again." Lily pressed the panic button. Two things happened simultaneously. The office lights blazed on, blinding all of them. And the windows exploded inward as Sung Jae's team entered from every direction. Kwang Ho's reflexes were fast. He grabbed Lily, knife moving to her throat. But Sung Jae was faster. He appeared from nowhere, one hand catching Kwang Ho's wrist, twisting until the knife clattered to the floor. The other hand struck with surgical precision, throat, solar plexus, knee. Kwang Ho dropped like a puppet with cut strings. "Don't move," Sung Jae said conversationally, his knee on Kwang Ho's back, hand pressing his face into the floor. "Police are 2 minutes out. You're going to explain to them exactly how you've been running your trafficking network. Every name, every location, every transaction. And if you're very cooperative, you might only spend 20 years in prison instead of life. You can't protect her forever." Kwang Ho spat blood onto the floor. "Someone will get her. Someone always does. Let them try." Sung Jae's voice was ice. "I was too late once. I will never be too late again." Police sirens wailed in the distance. Do Hyun was already escorting Ji-won out, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Lily stood frozen, adrenaline still flooding her system, unable to quite process that it was over. Sung Jae looked up at her, his expression softening. "Are you hurt?" No, I'm okay." Her voice shook. "Ji-won, scared but unharmed. We got here in time. Because of you. Because of us." He stood, leaving Kwang Ho for his team to secure. "You were brave. Stupid, but brave. You said the same thing about being stubborn. It's becoming a pattern with you." The police arrived. Detective Kim, who Do Hyun had mentioned was on Sung Jae's unofficial payroll, took command of the scene. Kwang Ho was arrested, charged with kidnapping, attempted human trafficking, assault. The evidence Sung Jae's people had gathered, bank records, surveillance footage, testimony from victims, was enough to put him away for decades. Dawn broke as they finally left the gallery. Lily was giving her statement when she saw Sung Jae on his phone, speaking in low tones. He looked different. The mask of the cold Mafia boss was gone, replaced by something raw and almost vulnerable. He caught her watching and ended the call. "Your mother landed at Incheon an hour ago. She's at your apartment with Mrs. Choi, probably reorganizing your entire kitchen. Despite everything, Lily laughed. That sounds exactly like her. She wants to see you. Make sure you're actually alive and not just humoring her over the phone. Should I be worried about her meeting you? Terrified. But Sung Jae was smiling. I've faced rival syndicates and corrupt politicians. But a protective mother? That's a different level of dangerous. They drove to Lily's apartment in comfortable silence. She kept replaying the moment in the gallery. Sung Jae appearing from nowhere, taking down Kwang Ho with lethal efficiency, then looking at her with such concern. I was too late once. I will never be too late again. The words echoed in her mind. You saved her, Lily said quietly. Your sister. Through me. Through G1. You saved them. Sung Jae's hands tightened on the steering wheel. It doesn't bring her back. No. But it honors her memory. Shows that her death meant something. Changed something. Changed me into a monster. Changed you into someone who protects people. Lily touched his arm, felt him tense then relax. That's not a monster, Sung Jae. That's just a man trying to fix an unfixable grief. He pulled over, the car idling on a quiet side street. Turned to look at her with eyes that held 8 years of pain. You should be afraid of me. I am. You should want nothing to do with me. I probably should. Then why are you looking at me like that? Like what? Like you see something worth saving. Lily's breath caught. Because he was right, she did see it. Underneath the violence and the reputation and the criminal empire, she saw a 19-year-old boy trying to protect his little sister. A man who ran at dawn and bought coffee from grateful old ladies. Someone who'd turned his grief into a shield for others. Maybe there is something worth saving, she said softly. Sung Jae leaned closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. This is a terrible idea. Probably the worst. You deserve better than a mafia boss with blood on his hands. Maybe, but I'm choosing you anyway. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. It lasted only a moment before he pulled back, resting his forehead against hers. Your mother is going to kill me. Absolutely. Worth it. We'll see. 3 months later, the Myeongdong Gallery hosted its most ambitious exhibition yet. Modern Korean Identity, a fusion perspective. Lily stood in the center of the main room, watching Seoul's elite mingle with artists and collectors, her heart full in a way she hadn't expected when she'd first moved to this city. The exhibition featured Korean-American artists exploring themes of displacement, identity, and belonging. It had been Lily's idea, pitched to her director with passion and backed by an anonymous benefactor's generous funding. A benefactor who was currently standing in the corner, looking uncomfortable in his tailored suit, trying to blend into the shadows despite being one of the most recognizable men in Seoul's underworld. You can't hide forever, Lily said, approaching Sung Jae with 2 glasses of wine. People are going to want to meet the mysterious patron. I'm not mysterious. I'm just a real estate developer with an interest in cultural preservation. His tone was deadpan, but his eyes sparkled with amusement. Right? And I'm just a curator who accidentally dated a human trafficker. That's not funny. It's a little funny. Lily leaned against the wall beside him, their shoulders touching. 3 months ago, I was terrified. Now I'm joking about it. That's called healing. Sung Jae's expression softened. You're remarkable, you know that. I've been told. Over the past 3 months, their relationship had evolved in unexpected ways. Lily had moved back into her apartment after Sung Jae's team installed enough security to protect a small nation. She'd returned to work, gradually rebuilding her routine. But dinners with Sung Jae became regular occurrences. Morning runs turned into breakfast conversations. Phone calls stretched late into the night. He was different than she'd expected. Still dangerous, still carrying the weight of his empire, but also funny in a dry, understated way. Thoughtful. He remembered she preferred tea to coffee after sunset, that she hated cilantro, that she needed absolute silence when authenticating documents. He showed up at her apartment with takeout when she worked late, never pushing for more than she was ready to give. And slowly, carefully, he was dismantling his criminal empire, transitioning legitimate businesses to full legal operations, using his connections to shut down trafficking networks across Seoul, cooperating with authorities, selectively, strategically, to take down the worst predators operating in his former territory. Detective Kim told me you helped them arrest another trafficking ring last week, Lily said quietly. Did he? Sung Jae. He sighed. It's what I should have been doing all along. Using power to protect instead of control. You're changing. You're changing me. He looked at her directly. Every day with you makes me want to be better. The man you see when you look at me, not the man I've been. Lily's throat tightened. I see both. And I'm choosing to believe in who you're becoming. Your mother still thinks I'm going to corrupt you. My mother thinks everyone is going to corrupt me. She also thinks you're not as bad as she feared, which is basically her version of approval. Mrs. Johnson's visit had been intense. She'd interrogated Sung-jae for 3 hours over tea, asked questions that made even Do-hyun wince, and finally declared that any man who looks at my daughter like she hung the moon can't be all bad, even if he is a reformed gangster. Reformed, Sung-jae had echoed. I like that better than current. Then keep reforming, Mrs. Johnson had said firmly. And if you hurt her, I don't care how many syndicates you run. I'll make you regret it. Sung-jae had looked genuinely terrified. Lily had never loved her mother more. Now, watching Seoul's elite pretend they didn't know exactly who Sung-jae was while he pretended to be just another businessman, Lily felt something settle in her chest. Not quite peace. Their situation was too complicated for that. But something close. Hope, maybe. Possibility. There's someone I want you to meet, Sung-jae said suddenly. He led her through the gallery to a quiet corner where an elderly woman studied a painting of a young girl with wildflowers in her hair. The woman turned, and Lily saw tears on her cheeks. Mrs. Choi, Lily was confused. I didn't know you were interested in art. This painting, Mrs. Choi said softly, gesturing to the canvas. The artist, who is she? Lily checked her catalog. Lee Min-seo. She's an emerging talent, focuses on memory and loss. What? Min-seo was my name before I married. Mrs. Choi touched the painting gently. And this girl, this could be Min-ji, Sung-jae's sister. I used to put flowers in her hair, just like this. Sung-jae had gone very still. I commissioned it, he said quietly. From a photograph I gave the artist. I wanted her here. For this. Lily's eyes filled with tears. The painting was beautiful. A young girl, maybe 15, laughing with flowers woven into her dark hair. Joy captured in oil and canvas. Not the tragedy of Min-ji's death, but the celebration of her life. She would have loved this, Mrs. Choi said, crying openly now. My sweet girl. She would have loved seeing her brother find love, find peace. I haven't found peace. But you're looking for it. That's enough. Mrs. Choi kissed his cheek. She'd be proud of you. I'm proud of you. After Mrs. Choi left, Lily and Sung-jae stood together in front of the painting. You never told me you commissioned this, Lily said. I wanted to surprise you. You're always talking about art preserving memory, keeping people alive through beauty. I thought, maybe Min-ji deserved that. She did. She does. Lily took his hand. You honor her every day, Sung-jae. Every person you protect, every network you dismantle, every choice you make to be better. That's her legacy. He pulled her close, not caring who saw, and kissed the top of her head. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. Really seeing me. Not the monster, not the reputation. Just me. The exhibition continued around them, but they stood together in their quiet corner, holding on to each other and the possibility of redemption. 6 months after that, Lily stood in a different kind of gallery, a wedding venue overlooking the Han River, surrounded by an impossible mix of guests. Her family from Atlanta. Sung-jae's reformed associates, who looked uncomfortable and formal but were trying their best. Mrs. Choi, crying happy tears. Do-hyun and Min-seo, who'd gotten married quietly the month before. Ji-won, who'd overcome her trauma enough to serve as Lily's maid of honor. And her mother, walking towards Sung-jae with an expression that made him visibly nervous despite having faced down far more dangerous opponents. Mrs. Johnson stopped in front of her soon-to-be son-in-law, looked him dead in the eye, and said, You saved my daughter when she texted me for help. Now I'm trusting you to keep saving her every day. I will, Sung-jae promised, his voice steady despite his nerves. Every day for the rest of my life. Good. Mrs. Johnson's stern expression cracked into a smile. Welcome to the family, son. The ceremony was simple but beautiful. Lily wore a dress that fused Korean and American styles, hanbok-inspired silk with a modern cut. Sung-jae wore traditional attire, looking both terrified and happier than she'd ever seen him. When they exchanged vows, he said, You texted for help, and I found my purpose. Every day with you makes me better. Every moment with you shows me what I'm fighting for. Lily said, you stepped in when I needed you most. Now I'll stand beside you always. You're not a monster. You're not your past. You're the man who chose to change, and I'm choosing you back. The reception was chaos, controlled chaos, but chaos nonetheless. Her Atlanta family trying to understand Seoul's social dynamics. Sungjae's associates trying to pretend they'd always been legitimate businessmen. Mrs. Choi managing everything with the efficiency of a general commanding armies. Late in the evening, after the formal celebrations wound down, Lily and Sungjae escaped to a nearby Pojangmaka, a humble street food tent that served the best makgeolli in the district. She was still in her wedding dress. He ditched his formal jacket for a t-shirt. They sat on plastic stools, sharing rice wine and grilled pork, laughing at the absurdity of it all. Should I text my mom that married life feels right? Lily asked, pulling out her phone. Please do. I'm terrified of her. Good. You should be. Worth it though. We'll see. Sungjae laughed, pulling her close. I love you, Lily Johnson Kong. I love you too, you reformed gangster. Reforming, he corrected. It's an ongoing process. Then I'll keep helping. She kissed him, tasting makgeolli and possibility. Every day. Looking back on that terrifying blind date, the text message that changed everything, the dangerous man who became her safe place, Lily understood something her mother had always tried to teach her. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. But sometimes, rarely, miraculously, when something feels right despite all logic, it might just be worth the risk. Kwang Ho was serving 25 years for trafficking. The networks he'd tried to build were dismantled. Seoul's streets were a little safer, protected by a man who understood darkness because he'd lived in it. And Lily had found something she never expected when she moved to Seoul, a home. Not just a city or an apartment or a prestigious gallery job, but a person who saw her completely and chose her anyway. A dangerous man working every day to be better. A love story that started with fear and transformed into trust. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. That man better be treating you right. I have a flight ready if I need to come back there. Lily typed back. He's perfect, Mom. Terrified of you, but perfect. Good. Keep him scared. And happy. I will. Promise. She looked up to find Sungjae watching her with that soft expression he reserved for moments when he thought she wasn't paying attention, like she was the most precious thing in his world. And maybe she was. Maybe that was okay. What? She asked. Nothing. Just, thank you. For what? For trusting your instincts. For texting your mom. For giving me a chance to be better than I was. Lily took his hand across the cheap plastic table in a street food tent in the heart of Seoul, wearing a wedding dress and sitting on a wobbly stool, and felt absolutely certain she was exactly where she was meant to be. Thank you for stepping in, she said. For being too late once and making sure you'd never be too late again. For protecting strangers because you couldn't protect her. For turning grief into purpose. We saved each other, Sungjae said simply. And he was right. One wrong date, one text message, one dangerous man, one brave woman. Sometimes the person who saves you is the one who needs saving most. Sometimes love is choosing to believe in redemption. Sometimes the scariest leap is toward trust. This is their story. A reminder that instincts matter, that good and evil aren't always clearly defined, that change is possible even for those who've walked the darkest paths, that love can transform, heal, and create new futures from broken pasts. If you enjoyed this story, remember, trust your gut. When something feels wrong, listen. When something feels right, even if it's terrifying, even if it doesn't make sense, maybe listen to that too. Your instincts exist for a reason. Use them wisely. Thank you for joining Lily and Sungjae on their journey. May you find your own version of redemption, protection, and love. And may you always, always trust that feeling in your gut that tells you when to run and when to stay.